Tonight, one of the nation's most serious drug problems, and it's only getting worse. It's steroids.
Professional wrestler Chris Benoit killed his wife, 7-year-old son, and then hung himself. Why did he do it? Steroids found in the house.
Steroids cause suicidal tendencies.
They hallucinate. They hear voices.
Depression, paranoia, and
steroids could be the actual cause for the Benoit.
Speculation is running wild.
I think these drugs could affect one's mindset.
Now we know.
Testosterone found.
Alarming news about steroid use tonight.
A drug bust in Phoenix, Arizona. Not for heroin or cocaine, but for something just as dangerous.
Health damage from steroids can include heart, joint, and reproductive problems.
This is a drug that kills.
Dr. Gary Wadler is an advisor to the World Anti-Doping Agency and the media's go-to guy when it comes to steroids.
Are steroids killing people?
Steroids clearly are killing people, both in the short term and in the long term. We know it's been associated with stroke in young people, for which there was no other obvious explanation. We know it's been associated with heart attacks, for which there was no other obvious explanation. We know it increases clotting.
But with AIDS, like Jeff Taylor, Jeff has been fighting HIV for 25 years, and he says steroids saved his life.
Back in '92, I was down to 2 T cells and very sick. I developed PCP pneumonia, both my lungs collapsed, and I almost didn't make it. I came out of the hospital weighing 125 pounds. So I started researching and found a clinical trial in LA. It was studying Anavar, an old bodybuilding drug, to test how it worked in people with HIV. So I signed myself up, got a fairly high dose, and responded amazingly. I gained 30 pounds in 6 weeks, and I gained 300 T cells.
So these drugs have cognitive powers. If you're sick, they'll help you. If you're a healthy athlete, they'll kill you. How can you say that steroids are a national public health crisis?
America. And most parents never know exactly why. I wanted to find out why Donald Hooten is so sure that the answer could be as simple as steroids.
How you doing?
Fine.
Chris Bell.
Don Hooten, nice to meet you.
This is a very, very competitive community, all the way from athletics to business. So you wind up in an affluent area where these kids can afford to play with this stuff. And of course, in hindsight, as we look back, all of the signs were staring us in the face. The behavior problems, the physical changes, but we had no idea what we were looking at. If we go back to the medical textbook, you know, the depression that comes along with steroid use is bad, but it's worse in that 4 to 6 week period following stopping using this stuff. And it was during that period that his mother found him hanging on the door in his bedroom.
Taylor Hooten's dad, Don Hooten, called me shortly after Taylor had taken his life.
Together, we came up with the idea of creating a private organization
to educate the public about the dangers of anabolic steroid abuse.
This is Taylor's room. You don't have to come in here long to realize Taylor was a baseball player. I guess he started maybe 5 years old in T-ball, but Taylor was a great kid. We took Taylor to a psychiatrist, and she put him on a low dose of Lexapro. And as far as I know, this is the only steroid-related case that this well-meaning psychiatrist had ever had. And when the psychiatrist recommended that Taylor go cold turkey and stop using steroids, it was a formula for disaster.
Well, I feel terrible, obviously, about Taylor Hooten, but Taylor Hooten had a lot of problems, and he was on other drugs. According to some newspaper accounts, he was on SSRIs, antidepressants, which have been shown to be associated with suicidal ideation and suicidal behavior. So whether his suicide was due to Lexapro or due to steroids or due to depression or due to stress of being a great athlete or 5 other things, I don't know.
Do you think that perhaps, you know, when I look on the on your website for the Taylor Hooten Foundation, do you think it's a responsibility to include antidepressants in there just in case there are critics, or just to raise the awareness of how dangerous perhaps antidepressants may be?
No, I don't, and the reason is our battle's not with antidepressants. Our battle's with steroids.
The National Institute on Drug Abuse said the dangers of anabolic steroids are temporary and reversible.
My son is dead. all of the intellectual arguments about whether or not steroids are dangerous or not don't matter to me. I know they're dangerous. I saw it with my own eyes, and I watched my son die.
They always tell you that if you have a problem, talk to your congressman. Lucky for me, my congressman is Henry Waxman.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very nice to meet you. Chris Bell.
He's the one who called the baseball hearings in the first place. He's got to have some answers.
I think it's important for sports figures in major league sports not to be allowed to use steroids under any circumstance. And for young people, we certainly don't want them to be using it. So the drug is a restricted drug. It's not there's not a, let me see. Brian, is it illegal to use it? It's illegal. It's legal in some circumstances.
It's legal with a prescription. Medical prescription.
Okay. It's legal with a medical prescription, and the other drug was the
testosterone or just steroids in general.
I think that they're also banned. They're already banned in professional sports. Brian, am I right? Speak up if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Okay. Well, these products are already banned. Cigarettes and alcohol are legally available, but not if you're under the age. And I think the age is 18 for both all around the country. Is it 18 or 21? I'm getting confused. What?
21.
Okay, so strike that.
That's all right. President Bush allotted $15 million for steroid education. Where has that money gone?
I don't know. Do you know? Okay, we don't know.
Okay.
Take Tiger Woods, for example. He had LASIK eye surgery, and now his vision's 20/15. That's better than perfect.
My eyes are stable. My game's a lot better. I feel pretty good coming in.
In a game that relies so much on depth perception, wouldn't superhuman vision be a performance enhancement? Then there's cortisone shots. They helped Kurt Schilling win the World Series, and those are steroids too. Truth is, corticosteroids can have worse side effects than anabolic steroids, but they're used in sports every day.
He had a 20-minute cortisone shot after Monday's match after his back tightened up.
There's
a war on drugs, and congressmen want to look tough on drugs, so they just demonize them all. And they say, oh, these are our children are being exposed to them, they're going to kill our children. And they just paint everything in black and white, and they really don't see the areas in between. For those of us who live in the gray areas and whose life depends on it, it's a very important issue.
Politicians are always looking for an issue to get behind. They're always looking for something to be able to say to the public, hey, look at what my legislation's doing. Look at what my bill has done. I'm out there. I'm protecting you. I'm protecting the children.
Turns out the most important witness at the baseball hearings was not a famous athlete. Taylor Hooton was a 17-year-old kid who committed suicide, and his father blamed steroids.
I believe the poor example being set by professional athletes is a major catalyst, fueling the high usage of steroids amongst our kids. And parents across America should hold you accountable for behavior that inspires our kids to do things that put their health at risk and that teaches them that the ethics we try to teach them around our kitchen table somehow don't apply to them. Please help us to see that our children's lives were not lost in vain. You have the power to do something about it, and we're counting on you to do so.
Donald Hooton coming in and putting a human face on it was more powerful than the statistics or any of that stuff.
On average, 5,000 kids a year commit suicide